And we just found some new information beforehand as we were talking with both Alicia and Elisha about how do we find out who the members actually are in these Rotaract clubs. The biggest thing we've got going on right now is figuring out how do we get as many January bills accurate as possible. Because the district governor, I don't know if you all know how busy the district governor is, but all these bills that we don't have someone to send it to, an officer of the club, it will go to the district governor. And their immediate reaction will be, Donald, I got 6 of these things. What do I do with them? And it'd be so much easier. And Donald, I'm picking on you because you've already done most of this. But what do I do so that I don't have these? If we get these fixed before January 1st, you won't get that call. But here's the good news. The good news is we're doing all this because Rotaract's got some really cool stuff coming up. So Jeremy, you're a member of the board on Rotary International. For those who do not know how this works, there is a Rotarian that is chosen from each pair of districts, and in our case, it's zone 33 and 34, goes all the way up to Pennsylvania and down to Florida and then out to the Caribbean. That person that was chosen for a 2-year director's job is Jeremy Hurst. So Jeremy knows stuff. He's been sitting on the board now on a shadow capacity for 1.5 years, and now you've been in it. This is your first year, right, Jeremy, as a director?
Started July 1st. I feel like I've been there forever. So it's definitely not a sentence, but it's certainly something that's taken a lot of time, and I'm enjoying every second of it.
So tell us about Rotaract and what's happening.
Well, you guys are the experts on Rotaract, all of you sitting down here, but many of you know me from the Caribbean region. I have the honor and pleasure of being a Caribbean Rotarian, or a Caribbean, depending upon which side of the divide you sit. And have grown up with Rotaractors, sort of a natural part of Rotary in the Caribbean. In fact, I'd hesitate to say that, you know, a good many of our Rotaract clubs are as strong, if not stronger, than our Rotary clubs. And I see, I see Alicia smiling there. I first met her as a Rotaractor, and I see Robin here from District 7020 as well. And so, you know, I've seen at firsthand the value that Rotaract brings to the Rotary members' experience. So when during past RI President Barry's year, the decision was made at the Council of Legislation to elevate Rotaract, it was a natural part of a process that we saw happen. Now, of course, the vast majority of the clubs in the Caribbean are community-based, and the university-based ones are understandably a slightly different animal in that they have less opportunity for continuity of members because their members will sort of time out, phase out as they leave the colleges and universities, and that's all understandable. But nonetheless, they are tremendously valuable to Rotary and are viewed that way. And of course, you've recently heard the change in the terminology that we have now. We're no longer an organization having 1.2 million members. We're an organization with 1.4 million members. And every time we mention Rotarians, Rotaractors are mentioned as well. So I think that you will know that. You'll know that's the bit where we felt should happen. Having said that, you know, change is a challenge. And I know many of you enjoyed your Rotaract experiences as being Rotaract as it was. So we're going through this transition period. And I think it's a dual transition period, both in terms of sort of the emphasis on what Rotaract means to our districts, to Rotary as a whole. And I know many of you don't want to lose that sense of what Rotaract was for you. And that's important. I think that we keep the essence of Rotaract alive and strong and well. But this is where Rotary really wants to make a difference, because what we feel is the best way to work with Rotaract, as we do with our Rotarians more increasingly, is to provide the opportunity for direct information to reach Rotaractors and Rotaract clubs. And we can only do that if we have accurate information on our membership. But frankly, at this point in time, we don't know if it's 1.4 million or 1.39 million or however many we have as an organization. We know how many Rotarians we have. We track that very carefully. But Rotaractors, we don't know as well. And there are some amazing resources available that we could bring to bear if we did have a better understanding of who our members are from a Rotaract perspective and access to them directly. That's not to say that we're in any way going to be circumventing the district chairs. They're an exceptionally important part of this process. But it does mean that increasingly we can provide direct access to the assets that Rotary will be able to provide. So this information and the process of entering this information is so important to making that happen. Now, I know that part of the perspective is as well, Rotary wants to know who you are so we can send you the bill. Well, yeah, that's true. That is true, of course. And that's a big part of it. But it's not the most important part of it. The most important part of it is to make sure that we can have a two-way communication directly to our members, our Rotaract members, just in the same way as we do with Rotarians. And it puts Rotaractors on the same level of access once they're able to provide that information. So I just want to encourage you all to do whatever you can. I think Rotary realizes this is a journey. It's not something we're going to get right first time. But with that increased support, we want to help grow Rotary through growing Rotaract. And first, that information that we need is the most important component, first step in that journey, I should say. So I'm, here, I don't know if there's time to answer questions, Mike, or if you've got me on a small slot, I'm happy to do my best to answer any questions. By the way, you noticed I didn't put my Rotaract slide up. I put my Happy Holiday slide up. So I want to, on behalf of the Rotary International Board, on behalf of President Jen and President-elect Gordon, I'd like to wish you all the very best. I did chat to Jen this weekend. She was in Abu Dhabi with some other members of the board at the Zone Institute there. She called me to sing me happy birthday because I was another year older this weekend. But she did want me to wish you all the very best for the holidays and let you know how important Rotaract is to her and to the whole of the Rotary board. Okay, any questions?
So yeah, we've got time. We're going to go into the details of how we enter data about your members and where your district stands. We'll do that later. But while we've got Jeremy, because Jeremy does have to leave in another 15 minutes or so, but we've got him here for you to ask any questions about anything about Rotaract and what the board has been doing about involving them on committees and all sorts of stuff. Any questions?
Yeah. You guys, normally you can make out like Rotaractors in a room with this quiet. This doesn't seem like Miriam. To me.
I know Miriam from Puerto Rico. She and I went around trying to excite people about Rotaract. Any questions, Miriam, that you'd like to be able to say, well, yeah, I talked to our director and this is what he said.
Well, good evening, everyone. I would like to share our own journey in the 7,000 district. Mm-hmm. There's a culture here that, as you say, it's going to be a few years journey because the notion of Rotarians here in Puerto Rico is that Rotaractors are college students, and it's kind of focused on college students, and it's been a bit challenging to reactivate. We have a lot of inactive clubs that we're trying to reactivate, but it's been challenging. So we're supporting the existing ones, which is probably about a third of what we had before the pandemic. But there is the challenge here. The challenge in our district is membership. So there are conflicting forces. Conflicting forces of district efforts. One of those forces is to increase membership in numbers that would count towards membership for the district, and Rotaract right now doesn't, at the moment doesn't. And that poses a challenge to me because the district, there's a view that we would rather strengthen the Rotary clubs themselves rather than focus efforts on Rotaract clubs. So because membership is a challenge in my district, there's this as I said, conflicting forces. So this year is challenging. Is very challenging to me. Right now, I'm trying to form a community-based Rotaract club in one postgraduate institution. It's not a university per se. It's an aviation school, and the idea that it's in my heart is to support public schools. Like I already at the beginning of the year put out there the idea that maybe these aviation school students should pick the school that they come from, and let's try to touch those schools. They're in real bad need of paint and just some support. So I'm thinking maybe I can find enough interest to form Rotaract, at least one, and begin with one community Rotaract club that would be the first or the main project. But what I'm faced is with also, why don't you instead form a different kind of club that would count towards membership? So that's the challenge. And I guess my question would be, based on my own personal experience, and I have another one, and I'm sorry, I don't want to take all the time. Is there any do we have any information as to whether the membership status of Rotaractors is going to change, and when?
Okay. So it's an excellent question. First of all, you very eloquently described the problem to solve in District 7000, and Mike, RFC Mike understands it very well. He was there recently. I've been in communication with your current district governor and district governor-elect. Of course, Hurricane Fiona derailed that a little bit. But it's pretty clear to me that 7,000's membership challenges are not going to be solved with a one-year fix of trying to do the same thing again and again and again. So definition of insanity is doing the same thing again and again and expecting different results. In my mind, this is a conversation I've got to have with the district governor and district governor-elect and your district governor line. There needs to be a long-term program put in place that looks at the holistic challenges of where 7,000 is going. And I think part of that could be the development of a strong Rotaract program and Interact program. And this can't be a year-on-year program. This has to be a multi-year program that deals with both the development of Rotaract as a product there, which potentially could be an amazing feed into Rotary. And when you start considering Rotaract as competitive to Rotary is when you're looking at Rotaract and Rotary membership as being on an annual basis, too short term. This needs to be a 4 or 5 year plan that Puerto Rico buys into. And that's very much in line with what we see with the membership action plan in zones 33 and 34. It's a multi-year plan, a 4 or 5 year plan. We now know who the next director is going to be. He's going to continue that on. What I'd like to do is to sit down, with leadership in Puerto Rico, along with Mike and others, to have that conversation to be, what does this plan look like and how can we help you put that together? So I think we've got to get away from this concept that we're cannibalizing Rotary by encouraging Rotaract. The two are different products. They're different pathways into our organization. Could there be a possibility where a membership of Rotaract counts towards a member of Rotaract counts towards the overall membership situation to the size of a district? Because I know the size of a district is the big thing that's hanging over Puerto Rico's shoulders right now. I think there could be a discussion on that. But the first step to do that is to find out exactly who our members are. So I'm going to turn this back to the conversation we've had earlier. Let's get them in there. Then we can make the case, well, you know what? You've got maybe 1,000 Rotarians, but by the way, you've got 150, 200 Rotaractors. So you're no longer below that minimal district figure of 1,100. So I'm only speculating, but I think there's a good case that can be made for that, and that's the same case I would be making for Rotaract in 7,000. And by the way, just to one of Mike's earlier comments on this, yeah, just to show the importance of Rotaract to Rotary, I sat on recently on the committee selection task force for Rotary International for next year for our President-elect Gordon's year, and we received a pretty strong mandate's the wrong word, but strong instructions to make sure that we considered qualified Rotaractors from a positive perspective, not just because they're Rotaractors, they have to have the expertise that the committee requires, but we want that Rotaractor lens on all of our committees. And I can tell you the vast majority of committees, especially those when Rotaractors were nominated for these committees, number one, they were excellent quality candidates and stood by themselves. And number two, more times than not, they were actually given seats on Rotary's committees, whether it be membership or strategic planning or any types of committee that's out there. So Rotary is walking the walk in that regard. We can talk more later, Miriam. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Good answer. Felix, you had your hand up?
Thank you, Mike. Good afternoon, everybody. Sorry, I'm late. I have two suggestions for Director Jeremy. Maybe he can comment on. This past weekend, when we were at Council of Governors meeting, I spoke with past District Governor Hurst, who is on RI's membership committee, and he said they interviewed several Rotaractors to try and get a feeling as to why we weren't getting the level of interest from young people in college for our Rotaract programs. And the response they got was that when the students compared the Rotaract presence at orientation against other programs, we paled in comparison. And so I'm wondering whether there's something we could do to encourage Rotary clubs who have resources to assist us in those areas. That's my first suggestion. Second one is, when I look at the success we have with Rotaract in District 7020 and 7030, it's because we put specific challenges to the district governors to encourage our Rotary clubs to form and support Rotaract clubs. And I'm wondering if that's being done in North America.
So great questions, great suggestions, Felix. I mean, that's really interesting to hear from past District Governor Hurst in terms of the data that the surveys show in terms of Rotaract not being able to compete. You know, absolutely. I mean, I think as we bring Rotaract into Rotary, part of the benefit that comes with it is providing this feedback. It's much easier for us to get feedback directly from Rotaract clubs than through districts. In many occasions, what you're doing is you're moving some of that. There's multiple levels of hearing this feedback. So to hear what you've just said is invaluable. I haven't heard that before, and it's really useful to hear. So I think that's one of the benefits that will come out of the registering of members, is that it will give us a greater ability to survey and hear from Rotaractors directly. And that sort of information is going to be essential if we can, because if we don't know the problem to solve, we don't know where to start. So right. I think that's a very important point. And secondly, in terms of support from districts elsewhere in North America, I'd like to perhaps hear from maybe the district Rotaract chairs here. I see we've got Mike Seller and Alicia Rodriguez, who maybe they can give their perspective on that. It'd be better to hear from them, I think.
Could we just do a quick raising of hands on how many of you all would say, I'm going to break it up into 25%, 50%, more than 50%. If I asked you how many of your clubs, what percent of your clubs, your Rotary clubs, are very involved with their Rotaract club? Do you have good active sponsorships for, I'm going to ask you to raise your hand, 25% or less of your Rotaract clubs have good, strong Rotary sponsors? How many would say that? Okay. How many would say more than 25%, but less than 50%, let's say, have good, strong Rotary sponsors? Okay. How many say more than 50% of your Rotaract clubs have good, strong Rotary sponsors? Okay.
Alicia don't count. She's 70-20.
70-20. Yeah. So to your point. Yeah.
That was really interesting. Alicia said she thought we had more than 50%, and I see Robin said she thought we had less than 50%. So that's interesting perspective from the this DRC and the DRR. So the lens is what we're looking for, and this is why it's so important that we. And I know Alicia, you can't get anyone closer to Rotaract than Alicia as a Rotarian, but it's important that we get that lens, that Rotaractor lens of the way you feel as Rotaractors, as members, and that's what we're looking for here. That's really interesting, and that's one of the criticisms that we've had with elevating Rotaractors, being that, well, we're removing the obligation, the responsibility of the sponsor club to be a mentor, to stay involved, and I think you're probably right as an obligation, but my attitude there is that, frankly, it's a two-way street, and I think it's probably a mature position to take, that it's both the Rotaract and Rotary clubs perspective to keep that relationship strong and together. Yeah, I'd be interested to hear your opinions on that. Doesn't all happen tonight. I'm accessible. If you want to chat separately to me, I'd be more than happy to. So don't want to steal all of the time tonight.
How about two people giving Jeremy a real quick recap of what you think goes on in your district? Mike Sela. Oh, you're muted, Mike.
No, I'm not. Sorry. In the district up in Northeast Florida, we have a semi-tolerable participation with the Rotary clubs that supposedly sponsor the Rotaract clubs. I really have about 2 or 3 Rotary clubs that are really active with the Rotaract clubs. The rest of them kind of look at these community Rotaract clubs as competition. Filtering on down to the university clubs, they have a little bit better participation with their sponsor Rotary clubs, but not really enough. I'd like to see them really more engaged. I think my personal opinion, and I might be voicing some of the opinions of some of others, the college or / university Rotaract clubs are not ready at all to even venture out and have no sponsors. And they don't, the problem stems from the fact that they change out their leadership and their member core every 3 or 4 years. And that's the biggest problem. I can have a well-trained group today, but come January 1st, they go away. And that's a problem in itself, which leads to the next problem. And that is the billing for the university clubs. I'm not a proponent of it. I'm a big proponent of the community clubs, but not the university ones. And the reason I'm not happy about billing out for the Rotaract clubs is that a lot of it's just an accounting nightmare. That's what it's going to be. It's not the fact they can't afford $5. Trust me, they'll drink $5 worth of beer every Friday night, if not $25. But but it's the accounting of it. It's the accountability comes up once again in January or July of every year. This all changes out, and nobody is going to know what to do. And I'm just thinking it's just going to be a nightmare. And then we're going to be penalized, and Jeff Michaelman, who's our district governor, is going to get the bill. That's what's going to happen.
Okay.
A good perspective, Mike. I appreciate it. I know there's concerns on that. I think we're going to have to roll with it and just see where and manage it best we can.
That's fine. That's fine. We will.
Yeah,
we'll
I know. So, I mean, I think to a degree for this round, but it's one of those things where it's not something you can selectively apply. Some districts it may work better, others not. But I think it is being watched carefully and closely by the board, and also by the Secretariat of Rotary. So
Okay.
You know, as I said, I think it's going to be a sort of a progress over perfection to start with on a journey. And, you know, we'll be here as best we can to support and certainly be listening. I mean, Jeff is someone I have in regular contact with. And one thing I've made sure with each of my district governors is that there's a direct chain of communication with each of them. To me, I've spent time with all of them, and believe me, I know I'm going to be one of the first to hear it when and if it happens, if there are challenges, and I will be directly in connection with Rick Barrett and the finances team in the same way as Mike Darrow will, to try and sort these issues out as and when they occur, if they occur.
So one last question, how about Robin? Could you give us the perspective of a DRR on a big district? And for many of the people on here, they may not realize, how many clubs do you have, Robin?
At this time, active and post cleanup, 44.
Okay. So as we've talked about all this, are there any things you would want Jeremy to be considering as he goes back to the board?
I definitely think that there should be some leniency, as clubs have really tried. Rotaractors have tried. Myself and DRC Alicia have been aggressively following up with Rotaract Clubs as well as Rotary Clubs, as simple as updating your presidents in Rotary International's database. That was a tug and a pull and a tug and a pull. And so I think that it's not for Rotaractors' lack of trying. It's not for Rotaractors' lack of interest. It was simply they just did not have access. We even tried to go the rotarydata.org route, and that was not successful. So we really tried as a district to get all of these clubs up to date in Rotary International. And as simple as that may sound, of course, we on this call, we know the repercussions of not having that information up to date. And so I think as Rotary International makes its way, and we are all about, you know, the elevation, moving forward, greater accountability, tighter administration. But I think there has to be a realistic approach to what that means for Rotaractors that may be interested and willing and simply just don't have access to action these things on their own. If you think about the termination of a club, if you think about you request a termination, that termination request goes back to a past president of that Rotaract club. In some cases, that past president has not been in Rotaract for up to 5 years. He literally said just today. I think it should be up to an active and engaged DRC, DRR, ADRR, and willing Rotarians that understand that, okay, this needs to happen to make that call. So small changes like that as we move forward. Of course, like I said, understanding that these changes have to happen as Rotaract is elevated, just taking into consideration what limits there are in the system and what leniency may need to be in place to avoid just repercussions that could be avoided.
And a quick question as a follow-up based on what Mike said about college clubs. Do you have any feel about whether there should be a different way of handling college clubs? Granted, we're going to forge ahead as, you know, the ship is gone. We're heading down the way and January 1st is going to be on us. But do you have any concerns about college clubs being the same as community clubs?
I think I do not have a concern there. I think that's where the relationship with Rotary sponsor clubs comes in. And I know that has been mentioned. I think that is crucial. We have been restructuring some things at the district level as it relates to ADRR involvement. But if Rotary sponsor clubs that sponsor the clubs are actively involved with these Rotaractors, I don't think a $5 dues, as was mentioned, you spend more than that on coffee in one day if you go to Starbucks one day on campus. So I don't think the onus is that great financially, but I do think as it relates to the administration of it, I think sponsor clubs have to sell just what we're talking about, sell that to their Rotaract clubs appropriately and ensure that they're monitoring them to ensure that it happens.
Okay. So Jeremy, any final comments or?
No, other than the thing, you're being heard and you have been heard. That doesn't mean to say that we're not going to try our best to get to the point where we can get as many Rotaractors registered as members and that information in there, because that's a two-way win. But I haven't yet sat in on meetings with the finance team in terms of exact procedures and policies will be. Of course, these guys are guys who send out the bills, and people who send out the bills, that's their job. But there is two-way communication going on, and this is why I want to thank our RFC Mike for taking the initiative along with you to be here today. And we are listening, and we do have direct access to that finance committee and direct access to the secretariat. And we will monitor, we will listen, and we will provide feedback to them. And I think it's not going to be perfect, far from it. You know, to Mike's point, it may even be slightly messy this first time around. But I think what we're going to have to do is try and cooperate, collaborate, because I think the goal in the long run is what we will achieve in the long run will add significant value to both Rotary and Rotaract. So at a certain point, we've had to bite the bullet, take the decision to move forward. This is that point. Decision's been taken. Will it mean some additional work and probably a little bit of stress? I'm absolutely sure it will. Will the benefits in the long run, you know, that we brings to the table be worthwhile the process? I believe they will. But we will work with you. I have my promise that we'll do whatever we can to minimize the stress. Mike, when Jeff Mickelman's on your back, let him know to talk to me as well instead of you to complain. And you know, the same applies to every district governor. We'll do our best to make this as seamless as we possibly can.
Okay, thank you for hanging with us. I realize you have been booked since what, 2 o'clock this morning? You've been going at it?
It's been a long one. It's been one of those days today. But part of that's because I had a really good birthday celebration yesterday, so everything's taken a little longer today to get through, and things have been a little cloudier, to be totally honest about it. But anyway, let's not go into that. I just love hanging out with Rotaractors. They're absolutely, like, the energy I get from you guys is amazing, and so keep doing what you're doing. Miriam, your comments on 7,000, I think we need to chat about that further, and I think it's a big opportunity there for us to work together on that. Thank you all for everything you do, and keep doing it. It's so important to Rotary, to the world right now, that we have vibrant Rotaract, and yeah, hopefully we'll continue to grow Rotary and Rotaract together hand in hand.
Thanks, Jeremy. Okay,
Okay, guys.
We've got two other parts of the session tonight. First one is I'm going to show you 2 pieces of data to let you know where your district is. I sent this information to you at about 4 o'clock or so this afternoon, but I realize it's, as I described it to someone else, it is information that makes a data dweeb just drool. But to most normal human beings, it's really a lot of numbers. So I want to just show you what it is, and it can help point you to where you're going to have problems, and in particular, where you're going to have a very unhappy district governor on January 3rd or 4th, when a bunch of Rotaract bills show up on their desk for Rotaract Club of ABC, and they're going to be wondering, why do I have a bill for 31 members of the ABC Club, and I haven't even heard about them? So we're going to try to prevent that. That's the first part. The second part is there are going to be a number of us on a panel just to answer questions and to find out all those sorts of things that you want to address, either about this or going forward, what do we do after January 1st? Because we've been very focused on getting the bill right. If we do that, we can start concentrating on a lot of other good stuff like Miriam brought up. So let me do a quick share here on my screen. First thing I'm going to show you is, here is the crucial thing. I sent you this graph. Can you all, I'm going to blow it up a little bit, and I'm going to make you all so I can see y'all. Can you see that okay?
Yes.
Okay. So what this is this is the reported clubs on Rotary.org, and that is Rotary's official database. Okay. So 6890, you've got 7 reported clubs. I went through and pulled all the raw data, and you probably can't see this, but it's every club and who are all the officers of these clubs. And you will see oftentimes this delightful thing, information not reported. That means there are no officers for that position.
Right.
And I looked to see, do you even have one officer for this club? And here are the ones that actually had one or more officers. So we had, you can see it down here, and I said, percent ready. What percent of your clubs are ready with at least one officer? And by the way, hate to tell you, but some of these officers are from 2018 and 2019. So even when we have an officer, it may not be right. That information is in the spreadsheet in the bottom of what I sent you. So you can go there and find who are the actual officers. And that's as of this afternoon at about 2 o'clock. So you can see our entire zone is about 60% ready, but some of y'all, and I think most of y'all, if y'all could click on your name that shows up on your picture and rename and put in your district number, as you see a lot of us have put on, and that'll help me understand who's on. But that gives you a sense of how many people, how many clubs are ready. And now the final one I've got here is how many members, Rotaract members, show up in Rotary.org on your district. Well, for 6890, and I'm not meaning to pick on 6890, but 6890, you've got one club that has at least an officer. That's the only person that can update these members. So there's going to be a bill issued for 125 members on 6890 among these 7 clubs. The problem is we know that 6 of those clubs can't update their membership. They don't have an officer. They can do it, like Robin was saying, through Rotary.org, through data, what is it? Data at Rotary.org?
Right, that's correct.
Okay. So you can try to do that, but Robin, you said you had difficulty doing that. Can you just let us know what sort of problem you had with that?
So in sending the email of the officers directly to RI via the email, I was advised that the update never took place. So we gathered all the information and we still have to do it manually, like one by one, try and reach out to those clubs.
Okay. So you sent the information to data at Rotary.org.
Yes.
And they didn't receive it?
No, they received it, but it was never processed.
Yeah,
Oh.
I had the same problem, Mike. I had my officers, but it was getting my names of my clubs up there. And I sent them another email last night, and I copied it, Jeff Michaelman on that, our district governor, if I need some support. So far, I think we're going to get it. I think we're okay.
Okay. Well, they've had some 16,000 clubs to try to update.
Yeah.
So, and I guess I'm making an excuse for them, but boy, this was a big one for them to have to take on. So just if you do send the email, hang on to the email and check back. How long did it take to get the ones that they fixed? How long did it take them to do that?
I knew it was fixed. It took about 3 days. If there was an oversight, and I have one club that has an oversight, and I noticed you got it tagged up there. I just don't know. I sent them I sent them a follow-up today.
Okay.
I think the biggest thing I looked at, yeah, I got that officer report, but I also go into my Rotary.org and drill down to the clubs, and I see the individual names of the clubs, and I publish them out to the individual Rotaract clubs. Now, Mike, you brought up something interesting. That is a dangerous thing to send out in its raw format because it has their contact information for each member, and it also has their Rotary ID information. But there's a way within Excel that you can strip that out. And I did that so the Rotary police won't come down on me too bad.
So you found a way to get the actual names of Rotaract members?
Yes, go into myrotary.org. I got it memorized basically. And then once in there, you go to manage, and once in the manage, on the left-hand side, it says, well, I can't remember what it says, but and then you can drill right down to reports, and it'll tell you the names of every person. Yep. Get a nice Excel report.
which report gave you the name of each person? If you could look that up and try it, and then just write down in chat, write down the path that you use, you know, my Rotary, club and district administration reports, so that other people, other DRCs can do that. That'd be great. Okay, Mike?
I'll do it right now.
Okay, because that we were trying to do this morning or this afternoon with Robin, and Robin showed us how to get it, but we couldn't get a report
Yeah.
of the actual names. So that would be helpful.
I'll do it right now, and I'll send it out. If I miss this deadline, we got 15 minutes. I will send it to somebody to have them email it out.
Okay, sounds good. We've got one other thing I was going to show you here, which is how many of your clubs, let me find my share button. Oh, there we go. Okay, here, I'll blow it up again. This shows the members that you have, the members in the no officer clubs, and 6890 again has 125 members in the no officer clubs. So there's going to be a bill going out that I would quite honestly, I'd be suspicious of that because we haven't had an officer able to mess with that. So Daniel, I see you shaking your head. What's your feeling about whether that's going to be accurate or not?
So I think, so it says right now we have 7 clubs. I've gotten contact with 6 of the clubs. I have 6 of the president's contact information, some of their officers. And then, so I think the number is going to go lower, and I got to figure out how to terminate a club. I'm not really sure how to do that. And I have a couple other questions for you about this process, but I don't know if now's the time to ask.
They won't do it unless you get the district governor to say to terminate a club.
Okay.
Okay, so let's hang on to that one for just a second. Does everybody just make sure that people understand these right here in this column? These are the ones these are the okay clubs. They got an officer. We're hoping it's an officer from this year, and those are the members associated with those clubs. They total up to almost 2,000. The ones that on our district have no officers with the clubs, it's almost 1,000. So interestingly enough, in our zone, there are about 3,000 Rotaractors. Okay, so any questions about this? And I think, Daniel, you've just raised a really good question. And I'm going to let Alicia be the moderator on this side. And I'll sit back and take the question, Alicia, and then throw it to whoever you think is the best answerer for that. So Daniel, you want to throw up the first question?
Yeah, sure. So I guess the first question I have is, how do I terminate a club? Or so we said just have the DG do it essentially?
Yeah, you got to send up the club number, obviously, and get the DG, send it up, and I will, there's a guy's name that I had that I was sending them to. It worked very well. I'll put that on my chat thing too.
Thank you. And then the next thing I was going to ask was, I was kind of confused when the presidents report their members, are they inputting every single member's name and contact information, or do they just need to submit an accurate number for the invoice?
Every name.
Every name. My bad. Okay. Every name and email as well.
And well, yeah, if they have an email, but that's a problem. A lot of these university clubs the kids aren't giving out the emails yet. They're very kind of coy about it, but it just, they want the names. That's what they want.
Okay. Thank you.
Give them what you can get. That's what my motto.
Robin, anything to add in on that?
I have a question on that. So we need the name. I have to do the same update that Daniel has to do, and I have to eliminate some clubs as well. So I need the name and the email and the phone number, or just name and email of each member.
Name it. If you could get the email, put the email in.
And if I can't get an email, can I put a mobile number or any other?
Well, you brought up a good point. You could put in, like, if it's for a university club, you could put in a common email for the university, and that way you fill the gap. If you don't have that, you can put if there's an address bar, you can put that in. I can't remember what's down there, but
Okay.
put what you can.
Okay.
Question though.
That'll help.
So the email address is the user ID. Am I right?
Yes.
So don't they need to use their personal email address if they're going to make sure the thing follow them after university, or if they change university?
Well, what we're doing is we're talking about, I thought what we were talking about is just a general membership inside the list. For the officers, though, they do need the email.
Okay.
No, but Felix, I think
I'm
your
talking
point,
about membership.
Felix, is when we put a Rotary ID on somebody, they want two pieces of information. They want the name, but they also want, and that email address is crucial because that's one of the core pieces. If you try to change your email address in Rotary.org, they are very, very careful about that. Alicia Rodriguez, anything, you were doing a whole lot of stuff on training on this. Anything you want to add on that?
Nothing new. Just to reiterate, I mean, that email address is that member's ID into my Rotary. So for them to be, that's like their unique information identifier. So if there's any email address that is the same that's currently in the database, it won't let you add that member without a specific email address that hasn't already been used within the My Rotary system.
You said we cannot report an email that's not already in the My Rotary system. Like, so if they don't have a My Rotary account, essentially,
you can't use an email address twice. So if a member is already in My Rotary and they're utilizing that specific email address, you won't be able to add them again. So if for some reason they transition, go to a different club, it's all tied to their email address.
If we have new members that haven't yet created a My Rotary account based on them coming in like in the last month or so, can we still report them even if they haven't gotten their Rotary ID and all of that stuff yet? Or
Yes.
wait?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. The crucial part is the officer. It's got to be the president, the treasurer, the secretary. And they're the ones that can do the adding and subtraction of the members. You can't. Trust me. I've tried. You can't.
But I can add the president officers. Correct.
No, you cannot.
Oh, I can't send that to the data.
And can we let Alicia talk through what you presented off through North America on the training call?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
Alicia.
So you can't physically go into the database and update it yourself, but you can, as the workaround, as you kind of mentioned, send an email to the data@rotary.org email address and give them the club information and then the information that you'd like for them to enter. I don't know, I haven't had to do that, so I don't know the response rate for that, but that's what we were told as the workaround to get members added to a club.
So that you can use the data@rotary.org both for adding Rotaract officers, and you can do a list of members, hopefully with their email addresses, to get members added or subtracted from the club at data@rotary.org.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, that's what they said. Is there any real world disagreement with that? Okay. Well, Daniel, you kind of kicked off some good questions there. Miriam, you had some questions?
It's basically the same as Daniel, but they were properly answered. So I see that I'm listed. My district has 9 clubs listed, but we currently have only 5 active. I still need information back from the different Rotaract clubs as to who their directives are, like president, treasurer, etc. I'm waiting on that information. So the other 4 that are listed there, I have to delete or eliminate. And I'm going to go through I guess the same process as Daniel will to eliminate those so we don't get billed for those.
Is Robin, Alicia, I'm sorry. I'm stepping in here. But Robin had mentioned that you all had an email that you sent out to clubs. I think, didn't you say that you had a communication that you used with clubs, Robin?
That's correct. So currently, District 7020, we are doing a massive cleanup. And what we have been doing, I've been sending out emails to the sponsoring clubs to ask them of any updates that they may have from the Rotaract Club. If there's any, we would send it on to RI. So we have Sonia Rumo. She's one of the members of RI International. And she has been working around the clock to ensure that we get feedback from the sponsoring club and the Rotaract clubs. So what we have been doing is sending emails out to the Rotaract clubs, sending emails out to the Rotary clubs, and then send it on to Sonia. Sonia would then, and of course, advising that the club should be terminated. Sonia would then send an email to the sponsoring club and the Rotaractors who are listed, and they have 1 week to respond to her, indicating their plan of action to revive the club. And if there's no response, they automatically are terminated prior to the invoicing that will be sent January 1st.
By the way, that's the name of the person I was looking for. Thank you.
Yes.
Are you going to include that email from International in the in what you're going to send later?
I will send the name of Sonia's email.
Sonia, yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah.
So of course, I want to also emphasize here the importance of constant communication with these individuals. So for the past months, we have been sending out emails. The ADRRs have been working around the clock. DRR Robin has visited some of these islands and see if we can try our utmost best to give support. So just ensure that you are doing your part, not just terminating, but ensuring that you have record, that you have been trying your best to get these clubs up and running. But I must say, once it goes to Sonia, that's it. Sonia is she's really, really good. Like, you would send an email at 8 o'clock, by 12 o'clock, she's responding to you and reaching out to the Rotary clubs and the Rotaract clubs. She is very, very, very dependable.
Yes.
So don't involve Sonia unless you want something done.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes. You're right, Mike. That's pretty much right.
Can I ask a question about the post January 1st?
Sure.
Is when the invoices are sent, are they going to the individual members, or are they going to the overall clubs? I was just kind of confused because you kept saying they're going to the DGs. Is that like an individual thing, or is the club collecting them first?
The invoices will go to the designated email address, I believe, that is associated with the Rotaract Club, as well, I think, as the treasurer, which is why it's important that the officers are designated. The only way that the DG will get an invoice is if there is no club officers attached to that Rotaract Club in our the database. Then it'll automatically go to the DG, which is what we're trying to avoid.
Gotcha. And is there a official day for when that money is actually going to be due yet?
Yeah, the money is due upon, and I'm tossing in on this. I don't know that y'all have dealt with this a bunch, but I've had this year 70 clubs that were threatened with termination out of our zone, which is an unheard of high number. It is due upon receipt, and you'll get a reminder in 30 days. And then the district governor gets involved after that. And that's not something you want to have happen.
Yeah, so just as soon as we get it, basically send it out.
There is one bill that comes to the club. It's a combined bill for all the members. It's based on the January 1 member roster. And once we get this up and running, that is not up for debate. If you've left people up on your roster and you haven't cleaned it up, and January 1st comes, you get a bill. Other questions? Donald, I'll just ask you, you've had some good success cleaning things up. Anything that you think people should know?
I'd just say that, you know, initially I started out with sort of a group email of all the sponsoring Rotary clubs and all the Rotaract clubs, and didn't get a lot of response. So I decided I'm just going to try to, you know, take one at a time. So I picked the first club, sent the email to everybody I could think of that might know anything about the sponsoring club or the Rotaract club, and started getting, you know, some replies, which got me to the right person, and was able to get the information to send to data@rotary.org. And that's pretty much where I am now, other than the one club I have left. And I've emailed even past district governors and hadn't got a response about that club. So I'm not sure. I've got to keep digging.
Well done. Any other questions? Okay, I wish you all great luck with this. Looks like we've got some good representation from 70-20. So Robin, it looks like you get your team on here, and seems like those 8 clubs there on 70-20 will be disappearing pretty quickly. And I see 70-30's got a couple as well. So Alicia, any of the other people from the Rotaract team? Any last words?
Mike, I'm going to, this is Mike, I will email this thing to you that I put on chat, because it might be easier to see what I did when you go to an email, and I will be more than happy, and I will put it on there. I'll put some screen prints of the different screens so people can see them.
That'd be great. And that way we'll reach the folks that weren't on here as well.
Yeah, because I went through a lot of trials and tribulations trying to figure this stuff out, and work with Audley quite a bit. So we're good.
Sounds good. So let me ask our subject matter expert, Alicia, anything we missed on updating this information?
No, I don't think there's anything that was missed. Just as well, I guess a reminder, there is a YouTube video with instructions if you have any questions or need to send that out to your presidents if they have any questions as it relates to how to do things. But I appreciate everybody for joining this call and understanding the importance of getting this done by January 1.
So Alicia, that's a really good point. That is a good video. If you wouldn't mind, could you send me the link to that? I'll combine that with what Mike's got and send that out to everybody.
Sure.
Yeah.
That I think is a good step-by-step that you can go through and do that. Robin, anything from you?
Nothing further at this time, just that 70-20 is on the move, and we look forward to more information to come from Zone Rotaract 34 committee.
Sounds good. And Alicia, anything from you?
Nothing much. I just want to remind each and every one of you that we literally have 26 more days left before January 1st. So I am encouraging you to take this opportunity to clean up shop. That's what we call it. Clean up shop. Run your reports, and of course, if you need assistance, Zone 34 committee is here to assist you. Just give us a call. You can reach out to Mike, and of course, he can share our contact with you as well. But we are here to assist you. Don't feel that you are alone during this process. We are here. We are one team, and we're going to get through this together. So just be encouraged. I know that it's difficult. It is difficult getting the information onto RI, but trust me, once you reach out to Sonia, and of course we have RMO Ali who is here to assist us as well. Just reach out and we're going to get through this together. All right. So be encouraged. Love you guys.
And Alicia, I will say, very important, over the next 5 days, we've got the holidays coming up, and Rotary International people do recognize the holidays, and many of them take vacation during that time. So the next 5 days are crucial for you to get things going. And I would put a deadline for yourself of somewhere around the 10th or 11th of getting that email up to data@rotary.org if you're going that route. And I'll
Especially
finish
for
up.
those clubs who want, especially if you're going to be terminating clubs, I do suggest that you get that email on to Sonia as soon as possible, because she literally allows you, allows the district governor and the Rotaractors to respond to her within a week. So just bear that in mind when you're sending out your correspondence.
Sounds good. Now we'll finish up with our past district governor, Felix Stubbs. Anything, Felix, that you've been doing this and you've had?
No, sir. After Alicia speaks, I stay silent.
You're a wise man. Okay, I will stay on and I'll ask Alicia and Alicia if they could hang on just afterwards in case you have questions. But otherwise, thank you for coming on. Good luck with it. As Alicia said, let us know if you have problems. We will do our best to help. And I see that Alicia has already sent me the, and you can see it. It's right there in the chat. So I'll keep that up if you want to grab that. That is a great instruction manual in video form that you can play. And how long is it, Alicia? It's just.
So the attachment that I put in there is not the video, it's the PDF instructions. I'm still looking for the video, which I'll send that to you once I find it from my email address, but that for sure is the step-by-step instructions via PDF form if you prefer to read along versus video.
Okay, so just double click on that and save it to your computer. Okay, thank you all very much. I will follow Felix's instructions and close my mouth and let you all go. Thank you for coming. And like I said, we'll be on here for a few minutes if you have any further questions.